Greetings, Battle Buddies Nation. We got ourselves a special little episode here today to add on to our Battle of New Orleans series that Spencer crushed it on. We got Emma Parker, my sister in law. Now, she has helped me fall in love with Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and the greater Louisiana area. Her and her family. Shout out to Emma's family for always just cooking good food, eating po' boys with me, and taking me all cool places, like playing pinball like 3 a.m. in New Orleans. Is good times. Anyway, Emma's on. She's going to teach us all about Louisiana. And at the end of it, I hope you're inspired enough to go visit there because it's an awesome place. And I can't wait till I go there again.
Okay. The harder the conflict, the greater the triumph.
A theist civis may be overcome by a swarm of ants.
Lead me, follow me, or get out of my way. Age wrinkles the body, living wrinkles the soul.
Battle buddies.
Battle
me too.
buddies.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Doing really well. Yeah.
This is like AI having a conversation right now.
How are
How-
you
I mean-
doing today?
Of course, in the 5 minutes before this, my computer and my headphones decided not to agree anymore. They just decided to ignore one another.
Spencer and I have been crushing it
You
in
have
technology.
no idea what we just went through when it comes to tech.
My computer decided also not to recognize my phone. Just staging a little bit of a coup, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, we weren't doing too hot over here. We looked at each other. We couldn't. Zoom was being very difficult.
Weird.
And me and Kevin looked at each other once we finally got it figured out. And we were like, I'm just so over technology today.
We're usually the good ones. Like people
We
come
are.
to us.
I used to work in
Yeah.
Best Buy.
Yeah. Old teachers
I,
come to me and say, like, how did you set this up on your classroom?
Yeah.
I mean, I've already had a meeting online today. Same exact setup. I worked from home for hours. All good. Podcast, no.
We're trying to decide though. So we're reading books in my classes right now.
Oh, wow.
And it's really nice because they have the text in front of them and then they have the audiobook. But I have kids falling asleep as kids do. And we're saying like, what's my due diligence? And so we're saying I should wake them up once to like, I did my
Okay.
duty. I woke you up, but I want it to be funny. Like, and I can't like shove them out of their desk because that's
No.
no. But I'm trying to think like the right utensil to where it's like the kids that are awake can get a little chuckle and like we can have like a little inside joke. Like, yeah, we're following along and like this shithead's falling asleep. What would you recommend? What would you poke the kid with? You subbed a lot.
Like the first thing just that comes to mind is like a pencil with a really fresh eraser. And,
Ooh.
like use it to like pick up their head.
That's a good one.
That's a
Um,
good one.
Just like
I like that.
Yeah, that's not
just like
bad.
that.
I kind of
Did you have any Vietnam veteran teachers growing up?
One.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
had one too, and him waking up students was really intense, like borderline inappropriate. Like slamming his fists on the desk until they would like wake up.
That's great.
Yeah.
I always have dreams of doing the like take all the kids that are awake and like have us secretly like walk out of the class or something. But
Oh, that would be awesome.
Oh, that'd be really good. But then, I mean, middle school, right?
that's the thing. I was like, it's not worth it to do the funnier things.
I don't know. But I was thinking, middle schoolers, it would be really hard for them to stay quiet. However,
True.
Yep.
if you're looking for a group of individuals to commit to a prank, like middle schoolers, maybe that's their time to shine.
It's
Also true.
And I'm really trying, like Spencer and I both try to push like harmless pranks.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Game on any day.
You shoving your friend into a wall and they break their collarbone,
Not
which
great.
has already happened, is not a prank.
Anti.
We're anti that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I would have to agree.
for those of you listening to this, welcome to a very special and unique episode of Battle Buddies. And it's essentially just a human being telling us how horrible we pronounced words from Louisiana.
That's the premise of it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
do an hour of you being like, it's not
Okay.
Bornier. It's not Lake Bornier. It's Lake.
Yeah.
I had talked to Spencer before. I was like,
Yeah.
we had already kind of talked about like the language thing, and he's like, "Is it Bornier?"
So I was like, it's not Bornier, is it? He's like, no, it's not.
So,
Knew it.
but like one thing, it's not like one fun rule is like in French, if there's no accent on the E, for the most part, just like pretend it's not there. Now, like the other letters you ignore, I don't have a rule for because it's a lot of them. But usually, no accent on the E, you don't say it.
You make French sound solid though, but like, give us a couple weird numbers in French.
Yeah, do that.
What do you mean?
Because French numbers
You mean like the year like 1997?
Yeah, what's 1997?
1997.
What?
No.
That's like a whole sentence.
Yeah, it
they're like-
literally
like 20 plus,
translates to
right?
1,900 420s 17.
Okay. Wait, before we get into the weeds with French, why don't you introduce yourself
Yeah,
and just
sorry,
say who
sorry.
you are? We're not very good hosts here.
Oh, okay.
Say your
Yeah, my name is Emma Parker, née Labranche Parker. I am Kevin's sister-in-law. I was born and raised in New Orleans, Louisiana. That is where I lived first 25 years of my life, with a short stint in Baton Rouge for college.
All right, so you got roots in not.
My mom's side of the family is original Cajuns who came down from Nova Scotia in like the 1720s.
Oh shit,
That's crazy.
And my dad's side of the family is old school French Germans who came over from the French German region in the 1750s.
no way.
So
Oh no,
we've
big
been
deal.
there a long time.
Just saying that casually.
Dude,
been
talking
there.
Because here in
long
California,
time.
it's like my dad's from Chicago.
exactly.
That's where you just wanted to escape the cold winter, but you're over here like, no big deal. Nova Scotia, French, German, whatever.
Yeah. So they're like, I don't know, 10, 12 generations of Louisianians, something like that.
So that's how you say it, Louisianians.
Louisianians, yeah.
Louisianians.
And then if you're from New Orleans, you're a New Orleanian.
Or Linian. Okay.
Linian.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. Okay, this is education. Yeah. I'm telling you, about an hour of this episode is just going to be you correcting us on how to say things.
It's fine. I was telling Kevin, so like one thing my dad jokes about, which I think is hilarious and kind of correct, is that in Louisiana, we're illiterate in 2 languages.
That's like a Dan Carlin joke. That's nice.
So, like there are some city names or lake names or what have you that are like kind of Americanized versions of like French words, like you sort of repronounce it. Some of them you don't at all though, and so there's no way to guess. Like there's no way to guess. So really guessing is totally fine because
Well, I definitely did a lot of
a lot of guessing over.
yeah.
me and Kevin we've been throwing back and forth over the last, year and a half or so, talking about the United States perspective on the French, just like culture, right? Why do we hate on France so much? Even though they gave us the Statue of Liberty and they helped us out with all the wars, all of them. It feels like
the big ones.
France really just showed up and was like, even like for, the 1776 thing, they were like, you guys need help with your Navy? We got you. But here we are, and we're like, French are dumbsies because they say 1997 hella stupid.
Is that even is the French hate in Louisiana? Like, did you grow up? Because in California, definitely it was like make fun of France because like, they're such weaklings. And they never fight. And then when we read, like, what?
Yeah, it's like the only thing I know how to say in French is I surrender. It's like, how do you say like it's a joke? I don't know. Yeah.
So yeah, I guess it's probably not as prevalent in Louisiana. However, right, like the France that was like on our side in World War II is not the France like that where, that was present at the Battle of New Orleans, right? Like so much happened between those things, like
Some heads.
the the French that the France that had like the big uh kind of like church schism, right? You had all the Huguenots, and that's what drove the Catholics out of Nova Scotia, right? Like all different France, right? So I feel like the French country that people end up, I don't know, like making fun of, of our generation, it's wildly different than like historic French
Yeah.
France, if that makes any sense.
Well, you said that you're like, right? Like when they did this, right? It's like, no, I don't know
Nope.
that. That's
Wasn't
not
aware of
something.
any of that.
Yeah. Welcome to Battle Buddies. We learn things on the
So
fly here.
what drove okay, so I'm not going to go into this because I could talk about it all day, but the
Please do.
word Cajun
Uh-huh.
comes from the word Acadien, Acadien, right? Acadian, because that is where they were from. They were from the Acadian region of Nova Scotia or Nouvelle-Écosse.
Wood.
Did you know that?
Okay,
See, I only
in
know
like
the band.
Oh.
in like the 1720s or whatever, and then but in France they're having like this big the Protestant, like sort of like a French Protestant Reformation. Also, a lot of this I might just be making up, but
No.
essentially what it
Right.
was is that it was very much not cool to be Catholic in Nova Scotia anymore. And so they were like, sorry, you can become a Huguenot or you can leave. And so all the Catholics left and they went to what is present day Louisiana, and they built their community there. And so the word Cajun comes from Acadien, Acadien. And then so it's the French from like 1720 is what has evolved into current Louisiana French,
Which is very different from
which is drastically different than the French that like I learned in school, which
Right.
was taught to me by French and Belgian teachers. Modern French and Belgian,
Okay, just going to give a little bit more information on this topic because it is fascinating. I got this information from the Canadian Encyclopedia because apparently that is a thing. Okay, so it looks like the Acadians, they lived in Nova Scotia territory around 1604, been there for a while. And it looks like as time went on, Britain and France, they don't always see eye to eye. They like fucking hate each other or something. There's a lot of shit about that. And so they're like, hey, you guys are gonna help us out. And I'm gonna yada yada through a lot of this. But here comes the part that's important with the dates. In meetings with Acadians in July 1755 in Halifax, Lawrence pressed the delegates to take an unqualified oath of allegiance to Britain. When they refused, he imprisoned them and gave the fateful order for deportation.
That just shattered my universe.
It sounds like the Huguenot thing is like a cool word.
Also, I might be completely but Huguenots were like very big in France. I don't know if they still were called that in Nova Scotia at this time, but basically the Catholics got kicked out, and that's why we have Louisiana.
Okay, so Huguenots, from the Encyclopedia Britannica, they seem to be Protestants in France in the 16th, 17th century. They came from Germany and then immediately just got fucking persecuted. Does not seem to have been a cool thing for them. I've never heard of the Huguenots before today, but
do you?
If you ever want to, like, you ever heard of the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre?
Nope.
What is
so
that?
That'd be one. So that was
just like a Reader's Digest version.
Oh gosh, it was so bloody. It was so bloody.
Sounds fun.
So there's like a French movie called La Reine Margot that goes over it. Queen Margaret. I don't know what people called her. Is the Medicis were involved? It was,
All right, on the St. Bartholomew's Day massacre, here's what I got. Thus began a period of confusion and violence in France known as the Wars of Religion that lasted until almost the end of the century. A famous incident of this period was the massacre of St. Bartholomew's Day. On the night of August 24th or 25th in 1572, after a council at which the Queen Mother Catherine de Bourbon and King Charles IX, the Duke of later Henry III, no wonder why he changed his name, and the Guises the Guises were present, there occurred a massacre in which Coligny and almost all of the leading Huguenots in Paris were slain. Feel bad for my jokes earlier. This got really serious really quickly. The Paris massacre was repeated throughout France, and Protestants were slain in the thousands. Jesus Christ. The Protestant survivors resolved upon a desperate resistance, and a Huguenot political party was formed at Milhaud near Nimes in 1573. Especially prominent was Philippe de Mornay, known as Duplessis Mornay. The Huguenots at first hoped that the crown of France would pass to a Huguenot. When that became obviously impossible, they fought for full religious and civil liberty within the state.
Do you get a lot of? Is there a lot of French tourism in Louisiana? Like, do you get a lot of?
Uh, so one, I don't know. I would assume so. But like New Orleans, there's definitely tourism just kind of from everywhere.
Yeah.
Um, but probably so, just because my 7th grade teacher was she was French Canadian. She was from Quebec, and she was mildly obsessed with French in Louisiana and just how it came to be. And so like we did some cool deep dives in her class, and she like took us to tiny Cajun towns where she would just get out the car and ask for directions without even bothering to try English first.
Yeah.
Because that's how small the towns we were in.
Interesting.
So like but she's probably a little different. Being Canadian and then teaching in Louisiana. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't know if we have more visitors from France.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So, in our 3rd episode, which has not come out yet, but by the time someone listens to this, it will have come out.
Yes.
But
Okay.
Which is some of our best work too. It's a bummer that you didn't get to listen to it first.
it's pretty solid.
Okay.
And we had to record it twice because technology is really cool.
We're doing really good.
Okay.
Technology.
Yeah.
Well, it's okay. I feel like you're gonna have to cut out all of the things I got wrong.
No,
In my
that's not
spiel.
happening at all.
Great.
But we show a picture
Cool.
of our California history book. And
Yeah.
it shows, and I think I sent it to you on
Yeah.
Okay, so
Weird.
2 pages. And I believe, is it 8th grade where you learn about California history? No, that's 4th grade, right? California history is 4th grade.
5th grade.
Cool.
All right.
Great.
Yes, right.
Ours
right.
was
But
7th.
Okay.
So, yeah.
7th for us.
7th grade is world history here, and then 8th grade is early American history.
Okay. And so the Battle of New Orleans is 3 sentences.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so is it different in Louisiana?
Okay, so here's where like my weird experience comes in, right? Because I was in French immersion. So sometimes our textbooks, because it's hard to find like American history written in French. So our teachers would like I learned about the American judicial system in French. It was very weird.
Although,
But they so our teachers would find like texts that were in French or translate.
Yep.
So, and I think that since my 7th grade teacher was particularly interested in Louisiana history, that we maybe got like a different dose of it than a lot of kids. But the Battle of New Orleans is it's very important, right? Like
Yeah.
we have Jackson Square. Everybody has that picture of Jackson in front of the giant cathedral in the French Quarter, right? Then, and every year on January 8th at the Chalmette battlefield, there's a reenactment of the Battle of New Orleans.
Oh,
I didn't know that. So I can go to what? We can go watch a
Yeah.
reenactment of the Battle of New Orleans.
And that's a good time to go because January 6th is the start of carnival season. So if you're there, you can get a king cake already.
January 6th also has a completely different meaning now.
Yeah, the
For
big.
those of
Oh,
you who don't
yeah.
know.
Wait, but you have to
Yeah,
back up
it's still the Feast of the Epiphany, though. So that's
because
forever.
you said king cake, like everybody knows that, but not everybody does. So explain, please, what a king cake is.
King cake?
Gosh,
Yeah, so you don't know what it is, huh?
king
Never heard of it
cake.
in my
Yep.
life.
Oh,
Want to take a
dang.
guess as to what it is?
Yeah, wait.
Can I
Yeah,
guess?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
Let's
guess.
explain it.
Yeah. let's
okay, a king
guess.
cake is obviously when you order a cake and a guy pops out as a king and he strips and you get to lick the frosting off his nips.
It's not like
Yes.
that.
So fortunately, that's pretty wrong.
Oh, I'm
yeah.
saying it's close.
I like my
Are you
idea.
kidding?
The guy's not alive. The king's not alive, but like
That's right. But
Yeah.
there is a baby Jesus in the cake.
What?
yeah.
Yes. Okay. So a king cake, first of all, it's oval. It's a big oval cake because it's really like a sweet bread. Think of like a brioche or anything like that. So it's like a yeasted cake. And it's braided, sort of like a challah, but in a big oval. And traditionally it's just like that sort of sweet bread with icing on top. Like royal icing. And you put a baby in it because January 6th is the Feast of the Epiphany, which is supposed to mark when the three wise men made it to Bethlehem. So you got the three braids, you got the baby, you got to find them.
And it's really good.
It's delicious, and every bakery makes their own. And now they braid them with like cinnamon or jam or whatever in them, and
fire.
some of them are rolled, some of them are you can get the chocolate shop I used to work at makes like dark chocolate king cake now, and there's all kinds of.
Okay, so is Catholicism super huge in New Orleans?
Yes, it's massive. Yep.
Did you grow up Catholic?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
right on.
But I mean,
Are you a
even if you
recovering
don't, pardon?
Are you a recovering Catholic?
Sure. I had a very positive experience.
That's
so
good.
I don't,
I like
I
it.
did.
That's
I
good.
did. And in New Orleans, like even if you're not Catholic, so much of like the city's like culture and traditions all started most of them started somewhere rooted in Catholicism. So
I feel like most of the human beings, even here in California, with the cultures that we have, 9 times out of 10, when people say they're Catholic, they're really just referring to their culture more than the religion.
yeah, exactly. And I do think that, I mean, of course not for everybody, but I do think that for a lot of families in New Orleans, that is kind of how it is.
Yeah,
here.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. All right, so king cake, and then you
King
were
cake.
talking about the reenactment. So have you been to a reenactment?
I actually have not. I've been to the Chalmette Battlefield because every single school goes on a field trip to the Chalmette Battlefield. It's outside of the city a little bit in St. Bernard Parish. But everybody goes there at some point. So
Okay, is that where like the Rodriguez Canal is and all that stuff? You know?
that sounds right. Sure.
Oh, it's like by the Mississippi River?
Well, the Mississippi's huge, so most of New Orleans is by the Mississippi. Yeah.
Get wrecked, Spencer.
I knew that.
It's called the Crescent City because the whole city is within a curve of the Mississippi River.
Okay, so me saying it's by the Mississippi River is really ignorant. Okay, got it. Like you mean like the entire city? Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, fair enough. You got a question?
Yeah, I want you to give some. Okay, people go to visit New Orleans. Where should they eat at?
Ooh, that's a great question.
So this is my favorite thing to do for people is give people a food itinerary. My biggest recommendation is to people visiting New Orleans is of course, like Jackson Square and the Cabildo and the architecture of the French Quarter is truly unique in our country, right? A lot of European cities look similar, but it's pretty unique in our country. But my favorite part of the city is Mid-City, which is the kind of staple of Mid-City is New Orleans City Park. It's like 13 square miles. It's huge. And inside of it is there's a New Orleans Museum of Art. There's 2 sculpture gardens. There's a botanical garden. There's a golf course. You can rent like kayaks. There's like water. There's all kinds of cool stuff. But one thing really is basically eat anywhere.
Yeah.
Eat anywhere. Like don't eat at Bubba Gump's. You're not doing yourself any favors. Don't ignore the Hard Rock Cafe. Why is it there? But like the Children's Museum has an amazing restaurant in it.
Okay.
The New Orleans Museum of Art, you will get a killer lunch there. Like
Okay.
just eat anywhere. Eat at trucks on the side of the road. Eat, listen, if it's grimy, at least you can see the grime, right?
There's
And it's probably delicious.
there's an old shout out to there's an old Matthew Perry and what's it, Chris Farley movie called Almost Heroes, or no, it's not called Almost Heroes.
Almost Famous? No.
Almost
No.
Heroes, I think.
Almost Heroes.
It's about like Lewis and Clark.
Yeah.
And there's a part where
they're trying to race Lewis and Clark through the river.
Yes. And there's a part where they're like, let's just go to New Orleans. And this guy says, the food is worth the trip.
Yeah.
I've always thought of that whenever I hear New Orleans. I'm like, the food is worth the trip, I hear.
Pretty much. I mean, yeah, eat anywhere. Definitely eat Louisiana food, but also like, I don't know. I think New Orleans has some really excellent Vietnamese food. Some, like because there are just huge communities of people from everywhere. So
yeah, it's a melting pot, as they say. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
going to Berkeley this weekend, and I'm going to this place that's called the Louisiana Kitchen. And like, is there something on the menu that I should look out for that I otherwise would probably not, because I'm just an ignorant Californian?
You mean like something you should look to try?
Yeah, like I'm going to it's a place called the Louisiana Kitchen that me and my wife passed like months ago, and we're like, that smells amazing. And so
Sure.
is there anything that I should be looking out for on the menu, you think? Like a dish? Louisiana dish?
I mean, if they do like thin fried catfish, that's always a good one. I don't know how prevalent catfish is though in California. So
Touche.
like thin fried
That's fine.
catfish. I mean, I would always try red beans and rice. Like
Red beans and rice.
red beans and rice is a staple in our household. We eat it every week.
Okay.
So
red
can
beans
you
and
explain
rice.
a little bit, because not everybody knows the tradition. So like, what's the red beans and rice tradition?
Well, beans traditionally take a long time to cook, right? So red beans are usually a Monday food because Monday was wash day. And so you would just let the beans cook on the stove low and slow all day while you did the wash. They didn't really have to tend to do. Just make your rice at the end of the day, eat.
That's a thing. Okay.
It's a Louisiana thing on Mondays.
Interesting.
Yep.
Monday. So yeah, a lot of restaurants like that'll be their Monday lunch special is the red beans and sausage,
Well, so, typically before I choose a battle or something like that, before I start to read a book and dive into learning, I will go on Spotify and iTunes, and I'll type in the battle, and I'll see like how much exposure somebody has already done for that specific battle. So I'm not being redundant or, repetitive with somebody else who's already done it. And so Battle of New Orleans was not something that a lot of people have covered. And as we just said, it's not something that we really talk about in our history books. No. I myself didn't know anything about it prior to reading about it. And like, I don't know, do you have any insight into why you...
Well, like your podcast was the first time I realized that no one knew about it.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
What say
I thought everybody knew,
why would the rest of the country just completely ignore a battle that like changed the course of the United States?
Well, I don't think that it was right. It wasn't didn't last very long.
30 minutes?
Yeah, it's 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
It was a half-hour battle. Yep. That's why the reenactment's so easy.
Ooh, that is the one you want to reenact, right? If you have
That's it.
some of
It's
those battles are slog fests.
Yeah, Civil
30
War.
minutes.
Yeah, geez.
30 minutes. You could get in your uniform. You can do your reenactment, and then you could go about your day.
That's true, because if you did the Battle of Shiloh, that's 2 days. That's like a 30-hour battle. And it's multiple pushing and pulling. Oh, boring.
You're asking time off work. You're not doing anything, 30 minutes.
30 minutes.
So, yeah, I guess like probably right because it didn't really take that long. It wasn't, and because it wasn't like it was, organized and by like the president of the United States. The president was like, okay, like figure it out, like so it's, I think that's sort of why it kind of falls through a little in the history books. Cause like, I don't know, American history, you sort of go by the presidents and what happened in their presidency and what they accomplished and, how they forwarded the country or whatever. But the Battle of New Orleans was just kind of just like a mishmash of people who were, from all over
Mm-hmm.
doing what they can for this place that they had been a part of and their families had been a part of for already 100 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are there still, this is a dumb question. Dumb question alert. Are there still a shit ton of plantations in New Orleans?
Yeah, like the ones that are, have been preserved. There are
Yeah.
a lot of them.
Yeah.
I will say, if anybody's listening is going to Louisiana, there is one plantation, the Whitney plantation, that within the last like 15 years, I think, underwent like a big restoration, and they the entire history there is the history of the enslaved, and it's told from their perspective.
Whoa.
That sounds much better. So I'm sure you're familiar with Charleston, South Carolina, right?
Yep.
Okay. So
I've lived there.
Yeah, I was like, you live there.
So my brother was also stationed there because he went to nuke school there. I'm sure you also know something about that. And when we went to go visit him, we went, well, one, you go down to downtown Charleston and you see like the place where they traded slaves, right? They sold slaves. And then we went to some plantations there, and it was very not entertaining. Very, like borderline uncomfortable. Like, what are we doing here? Like it was very more of like isn't this really like the way that they were packaging it for tourists was like, isn't this just incredible that they were able to pull this off? And it's like, you mean slaves were able to pull this off?
Right.
I don't know. So that is refreshing for you. You said it's the Whitney plantation?
The Whitney plantation. I will double check that.
That sounds cool.
And it's like a couple of hours outside of the city. It's like it's not close by, but I think they're doing good work over there. And that should be highlighted, I think. Yeah, there are a lot of plantations. In fact, when I was in 7th grade, my teacher, who was like obsessed, we went to a plantation called the Laura Plantation because they offered their tour in French as well. So that is why we went there, but I don't really remember much about it. I mean, there are some really beautiful homes and some very pretty landscape, giant oak trees. But yeah, they're still around. So.
Have you been to France?
Yes.
That's stupid.
Twice.
Okay.
Just twice. No. I don't think that's a stupid question.
So you're like fluent in French.
Yeah, I took French immersion. I had all of my elementary education was French. So.
That's cool. Do you get to use it in Hawaii?
I talk to my kids.
Cool. No, that's hella cool. I like it. I am personally, I'm trying to campaign that we should make fun of Italians more and be more
Whoa.
pro-French. That's
I
my
mean-
campaign.
Why you have to other
mean,
somebody?
Because America's all
I-
obsessed with the good
Israel
fellas.
just got into this Israel Palestine shit where it's like you have to other one to support one. No, support both. Everyone stop being mean.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't know. I feel
that
like
too- is that too-
Italians
Oh, but that's a
get
good
their
thing.
fair share of,
Italians get their
Black.
fair share.
Yeah.
All right.
but there's a huge Italian community in New Orleans, so I don't really know. Maybe I'm
Is there?
Yeah, huge. In the Irish Italian parade in March, because we'll throw a parade for anything, is massive.
That sounds like mistakes are made. An Irish Italian parade. Like it sounds like a lot of alcohol
Irish Italian parade.
poured that
Yes.
day.
Yeah.
Man.
My next question. These are like some heavy hitters stuff.
Okay.
Okay,
So,
let's go.
what is like the highest elevation in New Orleans?
It's about 40 feet.
Yep.
What?
It's about 40 feet. It's a man-made hill at the zoo. It's called Monkey Hill. It's next to the monkey.
Just so we're all clear on how elevation works in Louisiana. There's none.
So yeah, the house I grew up in was 2 feet below sea level. Yeah.
swamps.
And
Right? Just
New
all
Orleans sits in a bowl, you know?
I think I went on
Aw.
Emma's first swamp tour too. Right? You didn't go on a swamp tour until we all went, right?
I went to one with that 7th grade teacher.
Oh,
shout out to Marie Claude Belanger.
It sounds like a
she ever
great-
wants to listen.
Great year.
She was awesome. But I haven't been on one with you, Kev.
We didn't
Still
go
haven't.
with us with Butch.
No, I've heard about Butch
Yeah,
a
Butch.
lot though, and I've even recommended Butch to other people, despite the fact that I haven't been on
Got it.
his tour.
Shout out to Butch. I'm pretty sure it's Cajun Country Swamp Tours. I don't know if that's right or not. It's funny when you Google Butch Swamp Tours and then try to think like, yeah, that looks like the swamp I went to years ago.
My second question, because there's like no elevation in Louisiana, what was it like? Because we drove through like California coast and we saw all the mountains and everything. What was it like the first couple times you weren't in Louisiana? You saw like how giant mountains are. Like, is it like an actual shock, or is it like, oh, this is what I expected it to be?
When was your first time in California?
2013,
Oh, okay. Dang.
10 years ago, for Emily's wedding, for Kevin's sister's wedding. That was my first time in California. I guess it was pretty surprising. I think really one thing that surprised me more about like landscape though is that like driving down the highway, there's not just like trees on either side.
Yeah.
It's not just like green in your face everywhere. I was like, I can see really far over
That's
there.
true.
Mhm.
I had the opposite shock when I was driving, because driving through Louisiana, you'll just see a car. You're driving through these thick forests everywhere, and then cars just they just pull off, and the dog jumps out, and the guys come out with their giant guns. They're like, "Woo!" And they just go run into the woods.
Yeah, you
And
can hunt over there.
yeah, so
fine.
that's just how that works. They look like they're having a hoot.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
I think, so I think, I mean, probably the first time I saw Mount Shasta was pretty amazing. We like went up and down East Coast. So like, I'd been to the Smoky Mountains a lot, which I know are not nearly as tall. Highest point over there is like 4,000 or 5,000 feet. But so like I'd been over there a lot, but
Is that
I mean,
this highest point the bridge? Is that
maybe
Gotcha.
the highest point in Louisiana. No, it must be further north than Baton Rouge. Highest point in the whole state's like 250 feet.
it's crazy?
yikes.
Yeah, I mean, Monkey Hill. That's what you get. Get the and the levee. The levee's like 8 feet or so.
What river in Louisiana is Creedence Clearwater Revival talking about when they sing the song Green River?
It's north, right? I think it's like by Shreveport.
It's a trick question.
It is a trick
They're
question.
from California. It's
I
about
know that they are,
Buda
but
Creek.
That-
I was just
you
trying,
know, like
I was just trying to be. I'm being an asshole.
okay, I was like Van Morrison also sang about Mississippi, and he's Irish, so
Oh, what a jerk!
I didn't know
I
that
think-
I like Van Morrison so much.
What do you mean?
Apparently, he wasn't a very nice guy. Like, don't look into his personal life, but
I'll just
Really?
avoid that.
yeah.
I thought maybe I just kept confusing him as a kid with like Eddie Van Halen, but like listening to like Into the Mystic, I'm like, this is lovely. Like this is really, really pretty music. I like this a lot.
For sure. All right. Well, is that all the hard hitting Louisiana questions we have?
I think so.
Is that it?
There was just one thing that I wanted.
Wanted to correct us. Go ahead, do it.
Well, no, I didn't want to correct you. Also, Credence sang "Born on the Bayou," and they're not talking about
They're talking about
California.
Rio Vista, probably.
Yeah. So the Green River song is a Poudre Creek. That's our Vacaville River.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Vacaville did something.
Yeah, we did
Cool.
some. We sent. Yeah.
Papa Roach.
It's better than Green River, Washington, right? Serial killer, Green River Killer. Sorry.
Oh.
Good. That was good. That was good.
Yeah, that's the Green River too.
You're on a different level now, so we got to.
You are on a different level.
You
Oh.
are out of control.
Sorry, the only thing I wanted is because I haven't heard your third episode, so I apologize. But I think like growing up, learning about the Battle of New Orleans, we do kind of learn about it as like what an amazing example of like everyone coming together and like camaraderie and blah blah blah. And I really think it's more of like a great example of my enemy's enemy is my friend.
Yeah, our take.
Yeah, we go into that. Luckily,
first of all, thank you for apologizing for not listening to our unreleased episode that I'm that I'm taking a while to edit. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, it's coming out soon. So absolutely, yes.
This actually ended up being like our big discussion at the end of the episode.
And we can, since this will be being aired after, we can definitely talk about it. But one of the big things that Kevin asks after the third episode is like, Jackson builds this. I say Jackson builds this huge wall right after the Rodriguez Canal, and that wall essentially wins them the battle. But slaves built that wall, and so Kevin is like, would they would have won without slaves? Probably not. Like the slaves technically built that wall, and that wall beat the British. The slaves beat the British in the Battle of New Orleans. So cute, yeah, absolutely good point. And definitely we talk about how incredible people can come together when they have a very common enemy. That's definitely a thing that we talk about. So
it's one of those hard
because like
I would say you wanted to like when you hear especially like his Native American thing, you're like, cool. So then after this, he's a changed man. And then you're like, no, he's just a couple years away from Trail of Tears. Like,
no.
Why? Like, how did he get from that to that? Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What a big miss that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I mean, all of New Orleans went backwards, right? Because you had like in the Reconstruction era, right after like the Civil War. So what, 50 years later, like things just started going backwards because it was War of 1812. It was a massive part of New Orleans population had come from Haiti, right, where they just had the rebellion. So it was like I think 2/3 of the city was Black at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, Jackson had like 161 slaves at one point. Like, wild to me.
Yeah, it's interesting because we focus on a lot of like the tactics of the battle and like the leadership and the things like that, and
those are really good.
And Jackson did do made a lot of decisions that were like clearly gonna outwit the British, so to speak. But there's definitely like some huge elephants in the room of like, also though, slaves were involved in this, and I don't see a lot of commentaries and books necessarily giving them credit where credit is due for sure. So absolutely 100%.
Well, and like you had, but it was like also the city of New Orleans had a lot of free people of color.
And they helped fight in that war and battle.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And but then the Reconstruction messed a lot of things up. But Yeah, right, because the Haitian Slave Rebellion was successful. And the only reason people were leaving for New Orleans is because, of course, like when you're trying to start your own country, it gets hard.
You right.
Yeah.
So they left because of how difficult it was. But still very much had the idea in their heads that a rebellion will work just fine, you know?
Right.
Done it already. Do it
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up, and I absolutely appreciate Kevin bringing that up too, because like, had you not, I could have gotten lost in the sauce and just
Right.
been like, Andrew Jackson's a hero, and it's like it's
Right.
more complicated than that. You know what I mean? So
He's a historical figure.
he's a historical
He
figure,
is.
absolutely right.
Historical figure.
You know, just because there's a statue of him looking really cool on a horse doesn't mean that there was some touchy and questionable choices made for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're saying
I mean, heck.
we're anti the Trail of Tears.
And anti-slavery.
That's where we're going.
These are really harsh stances that we're
Yes,
taking.
hot take, anti-slavery.
I'm against crime. I don't care.
Yeah,
who knows
I
it.
don't care who knows it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. You know, we appreciate you for coming on here. We know that you are you're a mom, right?
Yep, I am. 2 tiny people. Luckily, my
So that's difficult.
my mom is in town right now.
Hi,
So
Shauna.
she's wrangling them. And yeah,
And I won't get into too much detail, but you're also a military wife, right?
I am. Yep.
You know,
we are
that's difficult.
Navy sub nukes.
And that's
so.
difficult. It's people
It
don't realize
is.
that when a person gets deployed, the family is also technically deployed with them, right? Like you are absolutely worried and caring about a lot of the same stuff that they are, though you are not there physically. It is still extremely difficult. So I just want to like reach out and let you know, like, I see you and we appreciate you and the things that you do in that regard.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle one day was like, "Whew, things are about to get really hard."
Redacted.
We'll redact that.
We got to his name on this
Okay.
podcast is Devin. We got Kevin and Devin. So
Okay, Devin. Yeah, he had one of those moms that made everybody's names rhyme. But yeah, so he was like, "Oh, things are about to get really hard." He's like, "Which means they're about to get really hard for you too."
right.
Yeah, I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Comes with the territory.
Plus, you married the biggest nerd in the world, and I mean that in the best way. But like, he takes everything so seriously. Like,
yes.
So it's
wait. Does Devin also love rules and rules and like regulations and things like this?
Yeah. Oh, he's a rule follower for
probably why because I don't feel like I like rules, but Spencer keeps telling me I do. And I'm like,
probably because, I mean, according to y'all's mom, right? Like Devin was like a rule reinforcer.
Yeah, it was
made you and your sister like follow rules.
Yes.
And if he felt there weren't enough rules, would create more rules, you know. So yeah, that probably rubbed off.
This is making a lot more sense now. Thanks, Kevin. Now I have all these rules that Kevin likes to remind me of at school. He's like, well, technically, let's get litigious here for a second. I'm like,
I feel like I'm just solving your problems.
I know.
You literally handed me a Chromebook. Like, what is this? I'm like, let me show you. Boop.
Shout out to all the military wives out there.
And military.
Spouses.
And military husbands. All the military families.
There we go.
It's difficult out there, and we appreciate you.
It is difficult.
You're a part of the fight as well.
Well, thanks. Appreciate that.
It's true. I mean that sincerely.
I know you do.
Yeah.
Well, is that it for us?
I think so.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
You know, if you have it in your heart, please open up that phone and give us a nice little rating. That would be dope, right?
That'd be great.
We'd love that dearly.
Oh, sorry. Can I say one last thing about New Orleans?
Please give it to
everyone should go for New Orleans. Don't stay in the French Quarter. Go to like the other parts of the parade routes. Bring your kids. It's the most fun ever. And is not like some debaucherous occasion.
Wait,
it's the best.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's
the best family-friendly holiday.
Not all beads and titties is what you're saying.
Yeah, that's tourists.
That's Bourbon Street. Yeah, because I feel like most of the time that I've been to New Orleans, I didn't even go to Bourbon Street because I didn't know. Like you guys were like, no, okay, that's not where you go. And
Yeah,
then like, I finally went there and I was like, it stinks over here.
Yeah, I'm only gonna go to New Orleans when you can be there and show me where to go and speak French, and I'll just be like, "Wee!"
It's a lot of fun.
No, nobody there speaks French, but sure.
Hey, isn't my name Spencer? Isn't that French? Comes from dispensier.
Sure. Sounds
Just,
great.
just make me feel better and say absolutely.
Like one.
Yeah, it's for sure a French name. I know so many Frenchmen named Spencer.
You.
Yeah.
I think
all
like
the
during
time.
their French education, they're just given a list of boy names. They're like,
The
memorize these ones.
Spencers are
These
like
are boy
royalty
names
in
French.
France.
It's all combinations of Jean, Luc, Marc, and Claude. Yeah.
So we have a little tradition here at Battle Buddies. We know you know because you're like one of our biggest listeners.
One of our biggest listeners. Thank you.
But we like to sign off. As Matt, what's a cool thing that we could say in French to sign off this time?
Is there like
Ooh,
a
bon voyage.
There we go.
There you go. Good
All
one.
right. So instead of bonsai, we're gonna sign off by saying bon voyage. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to Battle Buddies, and until next time, bon
Bon
voyage.
voyage.